This ain't a diss video. Oh, alright. It's a real video. Okay. It's a love video. Oh, alright. For the HBO miniseries The Night Of. The Night Of is a mystery miniseries co-written by one Richard Price, who did work on Clockers, who did work on The Wire. Also co-written and directed by a Steven Zalian, who did work on Schindler's List, Gangs of New York, and American Gangster. If that doesn't get you hype, then you're dead inside. So it's October 2014 in New York. A Pakistani kid from Queens named Nas, who is our protagonist, is tutoring a basketball player at his school. So Nas is talking to the basketball player. He's like, look man, you need to come to class, you need to get with these notes, because if you don't, you're gonna fail. We going over Stokes' theorem. So when the basketball player is like, look man, I ain't coming to class, I ain't taking no notes, and I definitely ain't taking this book home, man, you tripping. Then another player on the basketball team is like, look man, we ain't studying, but what you can do, Nas, you can come downtown to this party that we throwing. It's gonna be hella fine women there. Then Nas is like, you know what? I'm in there. So Nas hit his homeboy up on the phone. He like, look yo, come through with the whip. We gonna go downtown and the party gonna be So then his homeboy eventually flakes. You know how I go. You planning on doing something, you get hyped for the whole week or you get hyped for the whole day, then your homeboy or your homegirl flake on you. You know how that be. So then as a last resort, Nas winds up stealing his father's taxi cab. He drives towards downtown, but he doesn't know how to turn on the off-duty light. So then Nas stops. Two guys wind up getting in a taxi cab thinking he's on duty, and Nas is like, look man, I'm not on duty, I'm not on duty. And he's like, well, you have on your on-duty light. Then they wind up bickering back and forth. Two police officers drive by and they tell the reluctant passengers to get out. Nas tells them in confusion, I don't know how to turn on the off-duty light, this is my first night. So after a few moments, a fairly attractive woman gets into Nas's taxi cab, and her name is Andrea, by the way. He asks her, where you trying to go? She's like, I want to go to the beach. And he's like, oh alright, I'm about to press down. So they're driving around. Andrea eventually asks for a drink, so Nas pulls over to a gas station, goes into the gas station, gets us some water and a beer. So while Nas is in the gas station convenience store, Andrea is smoking a cigarette. She rolls down the window and tosses it in the direction of a hearse driver. Then the hearse driver picks up the cigarette. He's pissed off, he's offended. He walks over to her window with the cigarette in his hand. He's like, do you want to be my next passenger? So after this serious threat by the hearse driver to Andrea, he puts out the cigarette on her window and then walks away. This is obvious foreshadowing, predicting that the night won't simply end in chill mode. Nas then grabs the beer and the water and then he's walking back towards the car. The hearse driver stares at him awkwardly for an inordinate amount of time, like it was like in slow motion death stare the entire time. And so this slow motion death stare was also foreshadowing. He's staring at him as if to say, the Grim Reaper now has his eyes on the both of you. So then they drive to what I believe is the GW Bridge. Now New Yorkers, I know how much pride y'all have in y'all landmarks, man. My lady is from Flatbush. Don't get mad at me if this is the wrong bridge. I did the research, I did the education. So while at the GW Bridge, Andrea hands Nas a pill. Could be ecstasy, could be Molly, could be something that Future talks about on one of his songs. So then they head back to Andrea's place. On the way to the front door, two guys brush past them. One of them may be familiar to you from The Wire. He has some terrorist jokes for Nas, and Nas is like, oh okay, I've heard that before, I've heard that before. And you know what? God bless Nas, because he's poking out his chest. He's trying to show Andrea that he down for her Brandy's 90s R&B style. And thank God this situation died down, because Nas was about to get them hands. And the entire time during this exchange, the friend of the jokester is just giving them the death stare. Like if I could rename this first episode, it would be The Night Of the Stairs. So then they finally get into Andrea's spot. Some drugs pop off. Some intimacy happens. And Nas passes out, only to wake up to Andrea's dead body. I'll leave the story there.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
So initially, with the exception of the possible murder that Nas may or may not have committed, he is incredibly relatable. He's just a college kid out here trying to do the right thing. If you were to go back and look at Nas's file, and you were to look at his past, and if it raised any real red flags, you would assume that they were a result of forces outside of his control that pushed him over the edge and he wound up beating somebody up. Now in hindsight, after watching this first episode of The Night Of, if you're a fan of mythology, you can easily tell that Nas was doomed from the start like Oedipus. If just one single thing happened differently, he wouldn't have ended up in the house with Andrea that night. If he wasn't invited to the party downtown, if his homeboy actually gave him a ride and didn't bluff, if he knew how to turn on his off-duty light, he would have prevented himself from being an accessory in a real-life nightmare. Now, Nas's lawyer, John Stone, played by John Turturro, to me, is the most fascinating character in the show. He walks the line between a lawyer and a hard-boiled detective. And what makes a hard-boiled detective? Hard-boiled detectives are characters who were once optimistic, once idealistic, once virtuous, but the world beat them down and they are now cynical. They are pessimists, for a lack of a better term. And through these ups and downs, they continue to fight for justice. They may have a physical or emotional flaw. John Stone's flaw is that he has a severe case of eczema on his feet. It's so bad that he can't even wear regular shoes. He has to wear sandals. You know that family member that comes to every family reunion and insists their feet look good, so they wear open-toe sandals and they have dead feet, have zombie feet, look like Instagram done put the faded filter on their feet. Those are John Stone's feet. And like a hard-boiled detective, John Stone wears a long trench coat. And finally, like a hard-boiled detective, he has vices. Let's just say John Stone has a love of booze and women of the night. This show is very beautiful aesthetically and conceptually, and the color palette is very similar to that of the first season of True Detective. And the cool thing about this show is their different approach to the murder victim. If you watch CSI, if you watch Law and Order, the murder victim is usually rolled out in the first 5 or 10 minutes. We see the murder victim go to the bank and then they're killed in the alley. But in this one, they go through painstaking detail to show you Andrea's and Nas's interaction. So much so that you want Nas to quote unquote get the girl, and you also want Andrea to be a mainstay in Nas's life. Then she's rapidly snatched away from you like any other character on Game of Thrones or The Wire. And if you know anything about HBO shows, you know that no character is safe in the HBO universe. And this first episode and this show is written so well that you don't really know who killed Andrea. It could be Nas, it could be somebody from her past, it could be the hearse driver, it could be the friend of the guy who had the terrorist jokes and stared at Nas and Andrea with the creep stare, with the death stare while they're walking in the house. And that in and of itself is real life, being that none of us are there to see the murder, being that none of us have actual video evidence of the murder. All we have is the picture that the evidence paints on behalf of the prosecution and the defense. And sometimes the evidence itself can open up a new Pandora's box of possibilities of who the murderer or killer could actually be. And in many cases in real life, things aren't always black and white. Things aren't always binary. There's always some gray area. And this is where this show excels. You just can't name any individual character in this show good or bad. Sometimes a character's bad actions actually yield good results for the rest of the characters. Overall, this is just another one of those shows that benefits from great acting, great writing, and great direction. So my personal grade of The Night Of will be a 9 out of 10. Even after what some consider a questionable season finale, I love this show, I love the writing, I love the characters, and I just love the way this show looks. So are you going to watch The Night Of? What did you think about The Night Of? Did you like it, love it, or hate it? Let me know. Comment below. Don't you forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your followers as well. We got more movie reviews coming your way. We got more book reviews coming your way. And we got more random stuff coming your way. I'm in the bathroom.